In the heart of New York City, in a penthouse towering above the skyline, lived a man who had everything: money, success, power. But what haunted billionaire Ethan Kingsley wasn't what he lacked in the material world, it was the growing emptiness he felt in his home. Ethan, 58, was the founder of one of the most successful tech companies in the country. The world admired him, employees respected him, and shareholders adored him. But beneath the polished smile and perfectly tailored suits, he was a man growing more suspicious of the love surrounding him. His 3 adult children, Andrew, Melissa, and Jacob, had all grown up in wealth. Lavish lifestyles, private schools, no limits. But over time, Ethan noticed something unsettling: they only called when they needed something. Birthday wishes came late, holidays were often skipped, and conversations felt more transactional than heartfelt. Even more painful was the shift in his marriage. Clara, his wife of 30 years, had stood by him through everything: his first failed business, the nights they slept on a mattress on the floor, the years they could barely afford groceries. But now, with his heart clouded by doubt, he wondered, had even Clara changed? One quiet evening, Ethan sat in his study, staring at an old photograph of him and Clara from their early years, both smiling, holding hands in front of their first one-bedroom apartment. A pang of sorrow pierced his chest. Had they all fallen in love with his wealth, and forgotten the man? That night, Ethan made a decision that would change everything. He disappeared. He instructed his lawyer to tell the world that he had taken a sudden sabbatical and would be unreachable indefinitely. He left his phone behind, withdrew a small amount of cash, and put on thrift store clothes. For the first time in decades, he stepped onto the street as just a man. No status, no bodyguards, just Ethan. He rented a rundown room in a distant part of the city under a fake name, Eli. For 2 months, he lived among those who had nothing. He volunteered at soup kitchens, slept on a creaky bed, and kept a journal of every moment. Back at home, his disappearance caused an uproar. His children rushed to the lawyer's office, not to cry or worry, but to ask about the will. He didn't leave a will, the lawyer said. He wanted to update it. All assets are frozen until he returns. They were furious. What about the company? Andrew asked. The board is holding his shares. No access to anything. Melissa screamed, we've got expenses. Mortgages. Credit cards. But the lawyer said nothing more. Meanwhile, Clara waited. She waited in silence, tears on her pillow every night. Unlike the children, she didn't care about the money. She cared about Ethan. And no one could explain where he'd gone. One rainy morning, Ethan, still living as Eli, decided to test the people he loved one last time. He returned to his own neighborhood. Dressed in torn jeans, unshaven and aged by the hard days, he knocked on the mansion's back gate. The housekeeper who'd once greeted him daily didn't recognize him. I'm just hungry, he said. Could I do some yard work or something for a meal? She frowned and shut the door in his face. Ethan waited, and soon, his son Andrew drove up in a sleek car. Ethan approached him. Sir, I'm sorry to bother you. Andrew barely slowed down. Get off the property. We don't give handouts. One by one, he approached Melissa and Jacob over the next few days. They all rejected him. Disgusting, Melissa muttered as she dropped her designer sunglasses back on her face. Get a job, Jacob said, tossing $1 on the ground as if tossing it to a stray dog. But the day he went to see Clara changed everything. He stood outside their favorite cafe. She walked by, eyes red, clutching a cup of coffee. Ethan, disguised under a hoodie and ragged coat, approached her. Ma'am, I'm sorry. I lost everything. I just need something to eat. Clara paused. She looked into his eyes. There was silence. And then, she gasped. Ethan. His breath caught. How did you? I'd recognize your eyes anywhere, she whispered. Tears welled in her eyes as she pulled him into a hug. "Where have you been? I thought I lost you." Ethan broke down. He held her like a drowning man clinging to the shore. "I had to know, who still loved me when I had nothing," he whispered. She pulled back, took his face in her hands, and said softly, "I married a man with nothing once. I'd do it again 1,000 times." Back home, Ethan returned as himself. He called a family meeting. When his children arrived, they were shocked to see him sitting there, clean-shaven, dressed in a simple sweater, not his usual luxury attire. "I've been gone. Watching. Listening," he began. "You failed," he said, looking at each of them. "You showed no love. Only greed." They began to protest, but he silenced them with a raised hand. "I gave you everything, and when I had nothing, you gave me nothing in return." Then he turned to Clara, eyes softening. "But one person remembered who I was beneath it all. One person saw me when no one else did." He turned to his lawyer and handed him an envelope. "This is the new will." In the months that followed, the media buzzed with the story of the billionaire who tested his family. People were outraged at the children, but they were deeply moved by Clara's unwavering love. Ethan sold most of his assets and donated half of his fortune to build shelters and rehabilitation centers for the homeless, people he now understood deeply. Clara helped him run the foundation. Together, they traveled, built libraries in poor towns, and created change wherever they went. As for the children, Ethan left them enough to live decently, but only if they worked. He made sure they could survive, but they had to earn their place in the world. Years later, as Ethan sat by the fireplace, an old journal in his hand, he smiled. "Would you go through all that again?" Clara asked, curled beside him. "In a heartbeat," he said. "Why?" He looked at her, tears forming in his eyes. "Because I found out that when I lost everything, I still had everything I truly needed." And with that, they sat together in the quiet warmth of their home, not the mansion, but a small cottage they'd bought near a lake. Because sometimes, the richest man in the world, is the one who has love.